I was inspired. I was inspired on Slichot evening by a Rebbe who delivered a message to me that I didn't expect, and it broke my heart. I shared a little bit of it with you, a little bit in the sermon around tears. I'll be a bit more explicit tonight. A Rebbe of mine back from when I was ultra-Orthodox, so I was living in the very Orthodox world, someone that I hold in great esteem, someone who to this day, in spite of many things that he says that I fundamentally find offensive and difficult to hear, coming from someone I love so much. That Rebbe, I still listen to him, I still go to him for Torah, and I take what I can and the rest I leave, as the Talmud says about a certain rabbi who learned Torah from someone and ate the pomegranate and left the seed, ate the seeds and left the rind. And he said something on the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah that just completely, he began with a fundamental problem that we're going to, in our liturgy it's there, but we don't do it here at Romemu, but it's in the Machzor. There's a prayer, and it goes like this. Mi sha'ana, the one who answered, and then it goes through a list of all of the different ones in the Bible, all the biblical characters who were answered by God. Hu ya'anenu, he will answer us. They will answer us. That will be answered, right? So Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and so on. But there's one problem in that prayer. It says, Mi sha'ana la'Avram Avinu b'Har Moriah. May the one who answered Avram on Mount Moriah, Hu ya'anenu, that one will answer us. And my Rebbe asked, answered? First of all, we don't even hear where Avram prays. If you look at chapter 22 of the book of Genesis, he's on Mount Moriah, he's bringing his son. There's no prayer, like Hannah praying for Samuel. There's no prayer. Rebecca prays for her twins. There's no prayer recorded in the Torah. So my Rebbe asked, Mi sha'ana, the one who answered, you answered something that wasn't asked. What kind of prayer is that? Mi sha'ana la'Avram. Where did Avram pray? And he brings a midrash, the midrash that I brought also and quoted on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, where Sarah is crying, and Sarah's tears and her wailing becomes the shofar. But before that, in the midrash, we're told of a conversation, the midrashic expansion of a conversation between God and Abraham, where God comes to Abraham and says to him, bring your son, your only son, the one you love. And Abraham says, yesterday you told me that Isaac would be my future. And God says, good question. And in the midrash, Abraham says to God, I could have silenced you with my question. My question had the force to completely undo your imperative, your command, but I silenced myself instead. I had a legitimate complaint, and I didn't complain. But instead, I did your will. And then my Rebbe, my teacher, whom for 30 years, I was expecting him to say something, about how we haven't done it well enough. And instead he said, I want to stop and I want to say, wow, Avram, it's a pretty bold thing to say to God. I could have silenced you. And then my Rebbe went on to say, but I don't want to be silenced. Because there are complaints, he said, that each of us has, and they are legitimate. And he went on to talk about all the people that had come to meet with him that week. A young woman, a woman now not so young, who had come to his classes when she was a very young woman, and thought that becoming a religious Orthodox person meant that you would have a beautiful Shabbat table, just like she saw it at the Rebbe's house. and all of the people that came to her with children, to him with children who were struggling in some way, shape, or form, and he was recounting as if making a list of all of the reasons why these things shouldn't have happened. They had legitimate complaints. And instead of justifying God, he instead stood and said, I want to speak on behalf of the Jewish people. Enough's enough, he said. I think I could have heard the jaws hitting the floor. When you try your best, but you don't succeed. When you get what you want, but it wasn't what you needed. We began the Chag in the spirit of that being a sanegor for Am Yisrael, for all of you, for all of the people that come here and everywhere. We live often perilously on the fine line between self-deception and self-incrimination, between giving ourselves a pass and not letting ourselves have one. We live on that razor's edge with self-help and with therapy of always wanting to do better and get better, and the subtle but absolutely legitimate expectation that it will be. I know that when I got married at the age of 39, I thought that I had done so much work in my life that, my problems were over. I mean, if I had that money back from all of those years, the workshops and the silent meditations and the deep work that I did, a decade in the underbelly, in the kitchen, as we spoke about last night, and life just keeps bringing us stuff to work with. And sometimes it's just too much, right? And sometimes you did the best you could, and you worked so hard, and everything was just right, and then, Beloved Ronnie Sharfman wrote this poem that she wrote it for Alicia Ostreicher, a psalm for the Yamim Noraim. Why this game of hide and seek year after year? The cleft in the rock, your breath at my back. I turn, and you're gone. I turn and see a ripple, a wing disappears. There's so much I want to say, to plead. It's urgent. But I am Sutan's chicken, neck broken, beak open, scream stifled, a Yom Kippur sacrifice. Yet I fear for you, for what they are doing to you. Why do you let them pervert you? Won't you show them your face? Why do you withdraw when you are most needed? Once I danced with you. I felt you so close that I wept. It was like a drug that keeps me returning, coming back for more. Like all those you bring me at night, the lost ones, the dead ones, you place on my pillow, you disappear with the light, leaving this yearning. I seek, you hide. I chant, you are silent. I rage, you do not respond. I lose myself looking for you. I open my heart and you open your hand. I turn and return. I imagine you smiling. What if it felt like you were always there? It would be the changing slant of sunlight each morning, the eagerness of new faces in our political midst, our grandchildren's glee at novel words, the opening of my heart again and again to everything that hurts and can be healed or not. The scream released. Is it on you to make this happen? On me? Both together in that dance? Aleinu. Forgiveness is the process that puts an end to the business of unfinished business. Forgiveness is a letting go of holding, which lightens the load. Forgiveness is a giving that requites nothing in return. Belly soft, as they say in the Buddhist circles, heart open and mind clear. I look forward to this moment every year. I feel after a full day, I'm exactly where I am when my heart is wide open, when I feel unguarded, not having to pretend or put on a show or a shul. Just me, you, us, in this infinite moment that will change and change and change. I have no idea what you came with this Yom Kippur, or what you came with on Rosh Hashanah, and what you're leaving with. I only know that for myself, the practice is always the same. I close down, and then I open. I get scared, I get angry, and then I remember. And when I'm courageous, when I am in my place of remembering, I reach out and say, oh, I'm so sorry. I was closed. Can you open again to me? Can we learn to dance in the openness? Because to keep you out of my heart hurts that much more. Someone in this community saw me as I left the synagogue this afternoon, and I was kind of on my back. I think I almost hit him, but it was okay. It was fine. And he said, hey, Rabbi, are you okay? And I said, sure, why? He said, I'm worried about you, he said. And I looked at him quizzically, and I said, why? He said, honey, you're talking a lot about, broken heart and struggling with things, I didn't say anything to him, but I thought to myself, that's just fine. Isn't that where we are? Where else would I be? Oh, I wrote 1 million sermons for this Chag. I wrote one about Israel. That would have been juicy, right? Get the whole community debating it, and one side saying, I can't believe he spoke about Israel. The other one saying he didn't speak hard enough. The other one saying it's, it would have been great. Would have been. I know there are certainly people who wanted that. Could have talked about a lot of things over the Chag. And over the years I have, and what I discovered over the last couple of months is that my Torah is not that Torah. Oh, of course, we prayed for democracy, and we should, and we protested, didn't we? And I am so thankful that there are so many rabbis in America, and many of whom you should go listen to. Either if you haven't, you should listen to them, who speak so powerfully about so many different issues. But my Torah, and the Torah that I think is so embodied here at Romemu, is the Torah of the heart. It's, other people speak about it, it's beautiful. But I can't get that image from last night out of my head, the image of being in the kitchen, where all of the avaryanim are hanging out, this one an ex-con, and this one just getting their life together, and this one with so much promise, but learning from Carmi, who's holding the pain of generations, and his beloved brother who committed suicide, and the original beef that all of them are holding, and the bear comes out, and Carmi does the most courageous thing that you could possibly do and reaches over and says to Sid, oh, here it is. And on the world stage, there are going to be armies moving. And on the world stage, there are going to be huge things happening in the year to come. And somewhere in one of your homes, in one of your businesses, in one of your relationships, there's going to be a moment that is equally cosmically important. And it will be that you say this to someone or to yourself. When you're on that edge of blame and letting yourself off the hook, that you find that balance and return to that spacious heart, that El Rahum V'Chanun, that remarkably compassionate place, to show up again in your life for others and for yourself. In the end, we entered last evening with permission to pray with the Avaryanim, with the sinners. And if we're honest with ourselves, we know that we were singing and speaking about ourselves. At Yizkor today, we prayed with the ones who have passed over as well, and they brought their gifts to us. And now as we make our turn towards the closing of the gates, Neila, this last interpretation of the word avaryan, which means to be one who moves fluidly between. One who knows the secret that you are not a sinner and you are not a saint. You are not so holy and not so broken. You are all of those things, and they move as only things that are in the world of avaryanim move. Allowing ourselves to move through all that moves through us makes us into the ones through whom things move. Avaryanim. Many faces, many spaces, many hiding and seeking. I bless each and every one of you, and I know that you're blessing me, that in the next hour that we spend some intimate time with ourselves and our souls, listening deeply, opening broadly, loving courageously, and forgiving like everything depends on it. Let's sing Al Dat HaMakom together for the Avaryanim that we are.